It is 6:33 and I call to order the meeting of Public Health Hospital District Number 4, Snoqualmie Valley Board of Commissioners on December 8, 2016. Would the clerk please take the...
President Norris?
Here.
Vice President Young?
Here.
Secretary Spikers?
Here.
Commissioner Herron?
Here.
Commissioner Pollard?
Here.
Shall we now do the flag salute? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any public comment? We had moved that to early in this. Does anybody have any public comment? Hearing none, then we will move on to the approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any additions or any corrections or anything to the agenda?
Madam President.
Yes, Commissioner Pollard.
I got a email from Valerie and indicating that there was a revision to the agenda. The purpose being that the public hearing, or rather the opportunity for the public comment, needs to come before the action items. And one of the problems we got with this agenda, and this has been going on for a few months, but it didn't used to be this way, is that there's an action item connected to the Finance Committee's report. And I think that action item should go down below the opportunity for public comment and be among the other action items that are taking place. I see no reason why it should be connected to the report and not part of the several action items that are being considered. So I'd like to propose that the action item part of their report be moved to the action item section of the agenda.
I'm going to yield to the parliamentarian.
So if I may speak to that, it is customary in the ordinary order of business to deal with action items arising from committee reports immediately after the report is presented. There is no reason why the body couldn't change that if they wish to, but I believe that the bylaws had committee items and reports as well. So perhaps we could look into that as a parliamentarian.
May I respond, Madam President? The way the bylaws read is that the action items come separate from the committee reports.
I personally don't know at this moment, so let's let the parliamentarian take a check real quick and see that.
Okay, does that mean you want the medical committee's action items for approval of physicians to also move? I'm not sure I follow.
The
chair would like to recognize people before they speak.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Commissioner Pollard?
Well, I just believe that that's the proper way to do it according to the bylaws and logic, which is that after a report is given by a committee, there should be an opportunity for the public to speak before there's an approval of all sorts of financial issues.
So inasmuch as this is in the bylaws under this current order, approval of warrants and transmittals from the previous month and so on, my suggestion would be, if it's all right, Madam President, that you and I look into this and research what would be required to make a change if it were desired and present it at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think that's okay. Does any other commissioner have an opinion on this?
Why can't the public make their comments during the public comment section? Because they've heard all of this. Then they can make a comment. We're becoming a work study type of thing if you were to stop and go, meaning reporting and then. So I just felt that the public comments can be right on the same schedule where public open comments ought to be.
We have it, I think, twice. We have it. Yeah.
Right. So
Commissioner Spikers, do you have an opinion?
Why wasting time on this?
That's
okay, Commissioner Young, you've already spoke. I think we would like to let the parliamentarian and myself look into this and see, come back to the next meeting, if that would be, if the board approves that, to then bring it before the board and let them know what we find next meeting. But for now, leave the agenda the way it stands. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
Okay, then. Are there any other changes or additions to the agenda? If not, then we will move on. Let's see. Do I have an approval for the agenda? Motion was made by Joan. Did we vote on it, or did we just have?
There was a second by Emma.
I second it.
Shall we go for a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? It passes with the ayes. No abstentions. Okay. Approval of the minutes. I need to get this in front of me. Do I have a motion for
I
minutes?
so move.
Is there a second?
I second.
Madam President, clarification, you're saying approval of minutes. You're speaking of the November 3rd minutes at this point?
Yeah.
No, we're at
Or all of
October 13th. We have approval. The first minutes to be on my list are
November 3rd.
3rd, 7th, and
November
10th.
3rd, 3, 7, 10.
November 3rd. Oh, these are the, okay. Yes,
I think the agenda's right underneath here.
I'm looking at the wrong agenda. November,
This one.
well,
November 3rd.
would you like to, would somebody make a motion to do them all together, or do you want to do them individually? If somebody wants to do a motion for them to be all done in one group, we need to.
consider the minutes individually, so we always have.
Okay. We had a motion for November 3rd meeting minutes. Is there any comments about those? Corrections? Okay, then we will vote on approval. All those in favor of, Emma, did you want to say something?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we stay on top of what the scheduled time is. Like quarter one, I know we may have to deviate a little bit depending on, let's see, we have time frame here. So I hope that when we go through each one of them individually, that we consider what time, how much time we have.
That would have been before that we would have made that a motion. Right now, we are on the minutes, approval of the minutes, part of the agenda.
Point of clarification.
Yes, Commissioner
Madam
Pollard.
President, my understanding from the superintendent, and I believe he's the one that suggested that we have timed items through the agenda, is that this is only a suggestion.
It was.
It's not locked in.
That's what we heard at the WISHA conference, was give yourself some timing, some timelines, can keep things moving forward.
Actually,
But don't lock yourself too.
yeah, actually, I think we talked about this last time at our last meeting.
Yeah, so I appreciate the concern of Commissioner Herron, but it is not, we're not locked into those times, is what my only point.
That's correct. All right, so approval of the minutes for the November 3rd, 2016 meeting. Do I have a motion? Okay, I did. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, do I have a motion for approval of the minutes for November 17th, work study session? 7th, November 7th. I'm not sure that I
I move that we approve the work study minutes of the
Okay, all those in favor, say
November
aye.
7th.
Do we have a second? Yeah, Emma
Second.
said it. Second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Approval for November 10th, 2016 annual public budget hearing. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. You know, on communications, I do not believe that I have anything to share at this point. Just want to remind everybody that we are working under Robert's Rules of Order, which I think you all know, so I think there's nothing else I need to say, and I'm going to move to Tom Parker, SAU.
Thank you for the time on the agenda. And you have in your packet a CEO communication report, which I will go through at this time. First topic is strategic planning. Our department heads are now working on their tactical plans in support of the strategic plan. Many of them them, and I've been meeting with them, have submitted their plans. They are all due to their respective executive team members tomorrow. I expect that we'll have, the last count was 19 tactical plans from the management team, from the operations group, which I will pull into a single report for the board, and we will track against those tactics as a way to assess our progress on strategy. Under affiliation strategy, RFPs have been sent to 7 potential providers of consultation services. They are BDO, Deloitte, ECG, Hedner Advisory, Kaufman Hall, KPMG, and Whitley. I've had some responses from, well, I've had responses from most of them. A couple of them have had responses with clarifying questions. The process is that any response to a clarifying question goes out to all potential providers of consultation services. All of those proposals are due the 16th, which will be reviewed by the ad hoc the ad hoc committee on affiliation next month. On finances, you'll see in the finance report later in the agenda today that in October there was a net gain and a positive cash flow on operations, but a net loss overall. Expenses were 3% under budget, but we still have quite a bit of work to do. I wouldn't say quite a bit, but we still do have work to do to ensure long-term financial viability. During the report of the Finance Committee, I will provide a detailed report showing expense reductions that we have accomplished thus far, along with some of the work that we're doing to reduce long lengths of stay. I'll note that in November, our inpatient and ED volumes were higher than in October, and we are currently down to 1 long length of stay patient. A benchmarking project, department heads, other than the ones that went first, ED, med-surg, they're done. But the other departments are now working off of the benchmarking reports from Truven, and their goal and deadline is to have their departments adjusted in terms of staffing by February 1st in order to reach the 50th percentile productivity ratios or greater. A couple of notes on outmigration. We're working with Truven on benchmarking. We also found out that they do some work on referral mapping. So where are those patients going after they are in our clinic, for example, for imaging services or specialty services? So we've asked Truven to conduct a study of the volume of referral-based services from our clinics that are done here at the hospital versus elsewhere. Now, I said that we expect the report to be complete by month end. We did just get it in, and so we're consuming that information. We'll have more to report to you at the next meeting. Probably talk about it in finance as well. Second, and the reason that's about outmigration is because knowing what's leaving our system and going to other places is the first step to try to stem that. The second point here about outmigration is with respect to our ED services, and that's trauma designation. For years, the Central Trauma Council has kept trauma designation closed to any new applicants. I'm pleased to announce that the Central Region Trauma Council has agreed to open up the trauma program for an application from us to enter the program with a level 5 designation. The process is expected to take 3 to 4 months. We're very excited about this.
Tom, since we had the medical committee meeting, could you explain what that actually means?
Right now, we are operating just short of trauma level 4, but because the Trauma Council has kept taken the position that no new trauma designated hospitals were necessary, they have not accepted any applications for quite some time. Dr. Wickup, how long has it been? What do you think?
Probably 9 years.
Okay.
Or more.
Yeah, quite some time. So, for example, Swedish Issaquah is not trauma designated because they kept it closed. Our Chris Barnhart, manager of emergency department services, has a very good relationship with the trauma council and made a petition, made a presentation to them, asking them to consider opening up trauma designation for this hospital given our location and our capabilities. And their response was yes. So we are now in the process of making that application. The significance of it is that EMS workers in the field have protocols that require them to take patients to the nearest trauma center, any nearest trauma center. We've been locked out of that because of the lack of trauma status. Once we go into the trauma system, then we become part of the field protocol for being able to take patients to the nearest trauma center.
Is Swedish going to also apply? Will they be?
They've indicated they are not interested.
Now, would you,
The opening was only for critical access hospitals.
Was only for what?
Oh, thank you.
Only for critical access hospitals in King
Oh,
County.
okay.
That was the only opening that was.
That
open.
explains it.
yeah. Could one of you explain to the board the difference in level 5, level 4, level 3, level 2, level 1?
I will defer to Dr. Wickup on that.
I thought you might.
When we get close.
So they are graded, so level 1 is Harbor View, and then level 2, so like Overlake, North Valley, or Valley's a level 2, Northwest Hospital is a level 2, UW is a level 2. So it reflects what you have on service, what you have on offer in your hospital. So level 5 is all that they would open up. We actually function at a level 4, so if they were to have opened up a level 4, we could have satisfied the requirements for a level 4, but they were only willing to open a 5. We'll take it. We'll take it. Because those EMS protocols that say what Tom was referencing, they say go to the nearest trauma center. They don't say go to the nearest 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's when you have someone who is severely injured, that's when there is a designation of whether they should go to a 1, a 2, or a 3. They'll, no matter what, they'll be bypassing 4s and 5s, and that's fine. So that's why we're at 5.
Is Evergreen a 2?
No,
They're a 3.
no, they're a 3.
Yeah.
And Overlake,
A 3.
a 3. Is there a 4 at all?
I would have to think to figure out who around here is a 4.
I believe there's only one other 5 in King County, and that's St. Elizabeth. Yeah.
So that's just basically stabilizing and sending someone elsewhere, first stabilizing them here and then moving them on, or just keeping them here? We get to keep them here? No.
Level 5 says you're capable of doing all the things you're capable of doing. It's just giving us that stamp that everybody's looking for.
Okay.
But if the patient can still say, hey, I want to go wherever, right?
Choice.
Yes and no, because if a patient falls in one of the protocols, EMS actually is supposed to remain within their protocol and not deviate regardless of the patient's request. So it depends on what the patient's presenting symptoms are. So for example, stroke. If they're picking somebody up for a stroke, they are supposed to go to the nearest trauma center. It doesn't matter what the patient wants. They're supposed to go to the right stroke center. And so that's why I say if it falls in a protocol, they have to abide by the protocol. If it's outside of protocol, they can request the patient's wishes.
In final analysis, though, it seems to me that the patient has the final say,
They
even
don't.
with the
No.
protocol.
Nope.
They don't.
I'm assuming the patient is cognizant and not unconscious or something. If they're unconscious, of
If
course.
they're unconscious, they can't make a request. But no, if they're functioning in protocol, then they're not. The reason for the protocol is to get them to the best, correct place most timely.
Does anyone have any idea how many more ED patients?
You know.
So patient choice is not considered at all, so.
Not if you're being transported under protocol.
Now, protocol does not refer to level 4 or 5?
Yes.
Some protocols demand where you go. So a extensive burn is going to be mandated to go to a level 1.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be a 4 or 5 case?
No.
Okay.
That's the only time there's a mandate of where you go. It's to a 1 or a 2.
Okay.
Maybe a 3.
All right.
Thank you. And one last item here, and that is that Steve and I will be attending the Evergreen Board meeting this month, December 22nd. We're going to go there and watch how another public hospital district conducts board meetings and provide you with a report. If there are things that we find there that are some good practices, we want to go and pick that up and let you know about that. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the CEO?
I'd just like a little more explanation about who this Central Region Trauma Council is. That's the first time I've heard of it.
Oh, it's been
Is it
around.
part of the Department of Health?
It's been around a very long time. Yeah.
Regional trauma centers are created by statute, I think, back in the early 90s. And so they cover the state into different traumas, regional traumas councils, and their job is to plan.
So they're independent of the Department of Health?
They've got their point. You can Google them, I'll bring them up right now, but, if you do spring up the trauma council, it explains the background, history, and so forth. Yeah.
Okay, well.
They do a lot of work under the direction of the governor, so they do have an association. He'll have mandates to go out to the trauma councils.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Okay. We're now moving on to, is there any other discussion before we move on?
Just one question for the superintendent.
Mr. Commissioner Paul.
In going out to these possible bidders on our MA project, are you getting any kind of feedback at all in terms of their interest?
Yes. So we, on the 7, I've received feedback now from 3 who are definitely going to be providing us with proposals.
Thank you.
So, can I add one addendum?
Yes.
Thank you. And that is a reminder that tomorrow evening is our annual holiday celebration or social. It's at 6 p.m. at Sideview Community Center.
Is that the YMCA here? Is it on the
It's
ridge?
in North Bend.
On North Bend.
North Bend,
Okay.
Sideview.
Sideview. Oh, the Sideview pool. Okay. Thank you.
We have in-sourced rather than outsourced food this year. So we've really been able to cut back on the cost, but I don't think we're cutting back on the fun. So should be a nice evening. And then just to let you know, I'll be sending you out an invitation for our all-staff meeting. I don't think we've done that before, but I'd like to, if it works for your schedules, January 20th at 8 a.m. This is where we recognize our employees for years of service, and if you'd like to come, you're going to be invited. I'll get you an email on that.
20th or 28th?
That is January 20th. It's a Friday.
Thank you. John.
Thank you.
8 a.m.?
Did you say 8 a.m.? I'm sorry.
8 a.m.
8 a.m., yes.
Is that all right?
Friday, yes.
8 a.m.?
8 in the morning, correct?
Correct.
Oh,
With free breakfast, right?
No.
No
I thought it was 10.
breakfast?
He said 10
Oh.
a.m. Okay.
Bring your own.
Bring your own cookies.
Bring your chocolate.
Okay, it is time for committee reports.
BYD.
Commissioner Spikers, are you ready to
Yes.
make the finance report?
Well, it's been a trying year because of our payer mix, and I've indicated that month after month after month. Last month, we're back to somewhat, in October, somewhat possible Medicaid levels, and we had, fewer expenses, which would be understandable, I guess. But we had a pretty high census, but we still couldn't make money. And I am, if you reference the second page of the medical or the finance committee report under cash, unrestricted, and total. You know, I look at it all, and you can say what you want and do what you want, and you know, look at all of the strides we've made, and we're still spending our unrestricted cash for operations, and that's the bottom line, and we can't do that. And so nothing can be anything that can be done can't be soon enough. I'll just say that. There's some good plans. We've made some cuts. I think we're going to probably have a great month for November and December. We have, you know, I could talk about November and December. They're going to be good months, but October was again dismal and disappointing, and it is what it is. We all know when you get paid, and I said this over and over, when you get paid 99%, and when you get paid, you know, 15 cents on the dollar on Medicaid in the inpatient swing bed care, that's you just can't make money. You cannot break even. You can't. I mean, it just restricts everything. You start spending your cash, and that's what's been going on. We're up against a bubble, or not a bubble, but we're up against the wall right now. If we don't come up with very, very solid months for November, December, meaning that we don't make a positive gain of about $1 million, we're probably going to be ending up having to hire a consultant, and we'll be in breach of our bond covenant. That's my guess. Don't hold me to it. I think it could be very close, even if we do that. That in itself, I mean, pretty much is the bottom line that we had to strive to avoid, and we're in that position. And I did, depending on how November is, but we may have to have a special meeting in January. But we're going to be more than just monthly looking at this right now. Tom and I are in constant communication about what's going on, and he's been updating me much more frequently than any CEO has ever updated any of the commissioners, I assure you, on this, and which is good, because communication is really a key fact here, for a key thing that we need to continue to look at, and making sure we have all of the information so we can make diligent and appropriate decisions. One of the things I asked, it wasn't on the finance notes, and I had forgot, but I did ask, wouldn't it be nice to find out what the percentage of outpatient procedures after we release our inpatient swing bed stays? For instance, coming back for rehab or a blood test or a lab test or something like that, because that's really where we make the money, to pay for our losses. And that's simply put, to pay for our losses. And if I don't think anyone has that kind of information, but that would be really helpful, I think, especially in determining whether the hospital has a sweet spot that can be continue to be run on a break-even, at least, plane. So even though we're at 24 Medicare today and 1 Medicaid patient today, it's still, you know, you really have to have 3 to 6 months worth of, you know, that kind of activity in the hospital and that payer mix to make up for the losses that we had for last year. And even what we've been doing. I mean, Tom's been doing a great job with getting things lean and mean. But when you do that, then you reduce your reimbursement rate. And so we may, at one point, and I'm saying this because I think the board needs to understand this stuff. You know,
Agreed.
not in a really complex manner, but really have a good grasp of these concepts when we go forward with other measures that need to be done. So, you know, if we don't, where was I? If we can't break even, I can't remember where I was.
Could you speak a little louder or pull the mic down towards you, please?
Sure. I forgot, I lost my train of thought because I wanted to make sure you
If
guys...
you said if we can't break even, then...
Yeah, if we can't, no, actually, if we can't understand these types of things, the basic things about our payer mix and how we are able to operate in an efficient manner, and even, you know, like I said, even if we cut a whole bunch of expenses, our reimbursement rate is going to be lower, maybe down to $3,000 or $3,200 per day per patient. I'm just guessing based on my, you know, background and experience. And so, can we make it on $3,200 a day for our Medicare reimbursement? And it all boils down to, in my opinion, if we're making money on these people that come back to the hospital for whatever, lab tests or you know, rehabilitation is really our great, you know, we make good money and we help people. It's a great service that we have, that line. But if we got to have several different things, and I need to know, I guess, how many people actually come back. I know we have people come back because they need stuff, but how much? And you know, is it enough to sustain even a 24 bed per day, or how about a 20 patient stay average, you know? And so those are the things that I'm concerned about. We know clinics are a losing proposition for us. Hopefully that might change a little bit in the upcoming year. But you know, I'm skipping a lot of these details. They are in here. We looked at it. I think, Jean, you were a citizen that was present, and you probably heard a lot, and you could probably remember more than I do about the meeting. But I'm getting very anxious again about our bottom line, and we need 3 to 6 months of black straight. We won't be able to do any affiliation, I guarantee it, to have any leverage to be able to get what we need for this valley and these people for their tax dollars. And so it needs to be done. I think the board strategy planning session said balanced budget, number one. It was like 15 votes for it, I believe. It was the highest vote total that we had in our little dots that we put up on the board. And so it's a struggle. Tom, I know Tom is working at it. And I'm going to leave it up to him. It's his job. You know, we've requested it, so I hope that he can come through. It's bottom of the ninth, Tom. So, and I don't think I'm wrong. I've been doing this for a long time, and we'll have 3 good months, and then we'll have 6 bad months. And we'll have 3 good months, and then we'll have 7 bad months. And it's always something, and so, you know, I've seen it, it happens, and, you know, hopefully, I'll probably have a few more comments when it comes to a little bit later in approving the engagement letter with the So, but those are the things I wanted to point out. These are the most important parts I think everybody on the board needs to understand when we decide or make decisions in the near future. I'm not saying far future, near future. So I'm just giving you a heads up. If we can't maintain certain levels I just don't want to keep spending the cash we have. If we're just going to be spending the cash that we have, I don't see any alternatives. I mean, if we can't, keep the cash to pay off debt, we might as well pay off the debt now. So.
Question.
I just wanted to piggyback what David had said. I watched David get very tense, irritable, frustrated. I watched staff try to do what they can. I've seen mistakes. I've seen corrections. And it's difficult. It's hard times in healthcare right now, especially for business models, whether we're going to succeed or not. We're not the only hospital having struggles. There are others closing as we speak. But I think David, which I think is a representation of all of us, want to be fiscally responsible and want to use the taxpayers' money the best and not just throw it away. And I think that's where the rub comes, is when you're trying so hard to make it be balanced, to come out and be ahead at a month, and then something happens and you've been knocked back another 5 steps after you just came 4. So I think that this is something that everybody, all of us, need to work together. I know staff is working hard to do it. I know Steve I wouldn't be surprised if Steve and David both lose sleep over this. So I just think that we all need to be patient and support each other, and support David as head of this committee and support Tom as head of the staff, because it's not easy. And you have a question, Emma?
Yeah, I want to be more hopeful for 2017. I know there's been quite a bit of some dramatic changes, this year and the last year. And so I don't know how much impact, now that former CEO's salary is out of the picture, would that have an impact, hopefully, for next year's
It will help.
income?
$14,400 a month.
Is that what it is?
Wasn't it?
So I'm just curious, hopefully there'll be some other.
I think it's the appropriate time at this time, and I didn't know when you wanted to do that.
What was that? Excuse me, clarification, please.
Yes, Commissioner Paul.
Sure. Tom and I met this morning, and I really asked him in the finance meeting to make a presentation of what he's done to save money since last year, because I think you have to look at what we've done and say, hey, great job, because there are a lot of things that have happened. It may not be enough, but I think it's important for everyone to see what we've done. It's kind of a night and day thing, compared to a few years ago. So why don't you go ahead, Tom?
A point of clarification. In the minutes, it does say that it was requested by the committee chair, the CEO, to provide a report at the next board meeting.
And this is
it this board
Yeah,
This
meeting?
one.
This one.
Good.
Yeah, that's what I made a.
This is the
So this
segue.
is really part of your report.
Yes, and I think this is the appropriate time to go through
And
that.
I see that 14% on other.
I agree.
I'll preface this by saying that this is a report at a certain point in time, meaning this is not to be understood as, okay,
The whole thing.
you're done
Yeah.
you're done with what you need to do. We recognize, as I said in my report, that there's more work to be done, but I'm giving you a snapshot of where we've come so far on this path of finding our way to more efficiency. So I'm going to go down this list. I won't give you all the numbers. If you're interested, I have copies of this for you, but I'll just go down the list, and just so you understand, I will use one as an example, and that is the elimination of the COO position. That's an annualized savings of $140,000, and all of this is all listed in annualized savings. Well, the COO salary was more than 140, so why is it 140? It's because that is net of what the CEO salary went up to. So there was an increase, and Steve and I have worked on this to make sure you're getting a net cost savings. There's another calculation you'll see on these sheets, and that is that, well, how does that really come to the bottom line after the adjustment on Medicare cost-based reimbursement? So every single department has a different profile of Medicare cost-based reimbursement. On the med-surg floor, over 90% of those costs are cost-based reimbursed. In administration, where our time is allocated to lots of other patient activity, it's a 50% cost-based allocation. This gets very complex, and that's why we have companies like Whipley help us with our cost report. But what we've done here is we've shown what the net savings is after the adjustment to Medicare cost-based reimbursement. So you know why that sheet is formatted the way it is. So I'll just go down to things that have changed. COO position elimination, foundation director position elimination, HR department reorganization, and on that item, we have had our HR director resign, and Steve has stepped in working with the staff to redesign the HR department. Steve has taken on a lot more responsibilities in order to provide this savings. Way to go, Steve. Med-surg benchmarking implementation, ED benchmarking implementation, the ending of the district office lease, the ending of the TPC membership, service agreements for legal services to both the collaborative and collaborative member hospitals, which is an offset to costs. The contracts for services for our chief medical officer to the collaborative offsets our costs. The ending of the Xenix contract, reduction in sponsorships, the elimination of the imaging director position, the elimination of the clinic manager position, a reduction of our property tax liability specific to the surface water management fee, the elimination of the admin intern position, the elimination of the adult family home director position, the elimination of a van driver position, the elimination of the East Campus facilities staff position, the elimination of a housekeeping position, and reductions in advertising to the two local newspapers. I don't have a quantitative number on this yet, but we've also instituted a program for what's called reducing our sitter management. And this is where we have one-on-one staffing with some patients that require sitters. Sitters are really folks who are on the unit just watching to make sure the patient is not going to hurt themselves. We put in new protocols that will greatly reduce the amount of sitter hours that we have. And then I'd just like to mention lastly that given the 2% increase for our staff, the executive team got together and decided that we would forego any salary increases for ourselves for next year, and we transferred $13,000 from ourselves to the line staff to help them have a little better raise in 2017. There's still more that we're working on, and I'll be able to take you the course along the way as we make more progress.
So you can see that there is progress. The team is listening. The team is implementing things. Like I said, I don't know if this is going to be enough. But we're headed in the right direction. And unfortunately, we have to have a really quick turnaround. And I'm hoping I didn't get any sleep after the last finance meeting, actually, that night. But
I've got you pegged.
You probably all know I'm very passionate about this organization, healthcare in my community, everything I do, my clients, anything. And I don't like to fail. I don't like to lose my cases. I don't like to lose at hockey. I don't like anything like that, and I don't want the hospital to fail. So Tom is going to be in constant contact with me. If something becomes a mess, I'm going to ask for a special meeting. Hopefully that won't happen. But I wanted to be transparent in communicating my thoughts and my knowledge, at least of the basics, to the rest of the board, because the board has to act together if we have to do something. We can't just be one Lone Ranger me or one Lone Ranger Gene or whatever it is. And even if we don't see eye to eye, we still have to be in the act in the best interest of the hospital district and taxpayers. And so it is what it is. So that's my report. Any questions?
No, I appreciate CEO's report on some of the many things that has been implemented, so thank you. And can we get a copy of that sometime? I'd like to.
Just one producer.
Wonderful.
One last thing. Since we're in the spirit of the original agreement to do an action item, I move at this time to approve the warrants. It's at $2,375,000 and $813.40.
Point of order.
Yes, Commissioner Pollard.
I'd like to see us finish asking questions before that motion is introduced, if we could.
I don't care.
Asking questions.
That's fine.
about the report.
That's fine. I
You have
just
a-
want to make sure I didn't forget.
Good.
All right.
Okay, so there are copies of this for everybody,
Mhm.
and this is what you just read off, is that
Mhm.
correct? Correct. Okay, now, I want to make sure I understand this. You're right about how the board wants a balanced budget. Is it true, is it correct, that we're $1 million from that goal at this point?
2.2 million,
2.2 million short of a balanced budget at this point.
but we're 1.6 million from what I.D. Bailey predicted,
Yeah,
approximately.
good. It's not good. To put it in the colloquial, is it too cruel to say that unless things change, we're in trouble?
That would be correct.
And I heard you say that at some point, they may send someone in here to take over management. Is that?
Well, that's the second step that they could do. The first step that they would have to have is we would have to pay for a consultant, about 10 grand, 10,000, to come in and see if there could be changes made to correct any issues with the viability. I think that if they came in, this is the reality. If they came in like in January and they saw that what we've been doing the last few months, they'd say, "Oh, okay,
You're
well,
doing
that's
it all."
probably already, that's all we can do." My guess.
Can we be in contact with them on an informal basis to let them know?
I don't think I'd want to do that at this point. I don't think I would, yeah. So.
Okay. I have another question, if I may continue.
I think it's somebody else's turn if they want to, Commissioner Pollard, and then we can come back to you. Is there anybody else that has a question? Commissioner Herron, Commissioner Young?
Just a question. Oh, yeah. Would the state come in and look at these things, or what's the?
We have auditors. We have the auditors, both state and our own auditors. Today I had the intake conference today with Eric from Los Adams, and kind of gave them the big picture of what's going on. And the state auditors would come in. In the past, they've made some recommendations when we were losing a lot of money back about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And they made some very interesting findings, and those corrections were made, and I think the only, the steps that we took from then on were miraculous to be able to get funding and to get bond financing and get a new hospital. And we are in again, a dilemma. And I think, to answer your question, or
Will they take over?
I don't, that it would be a second step, perhaps, but it's not, it's definitely not, I don't see that happening if we can see 3 consecutive months of black. I think if we were 3 consecutive months, any consultant would look at it and say, I'm just guessing, that we've implemented many procedures. However, again, the bottom line is there really a sweet spot in our hospital to be able to run things to break even? And what is our outpatient percentage of people that are using our hospital for outpatient procedures that we can make money, and where is that? And so,
I'll just jump in for a second, and that's, you said more to come on the Whitley. That's right, right in line with why we would want Whitley to come in.
I like that door-to-door campaign. That might be another
Absolutely.
to really look into it, to get involved in the community, and maybe that could be part of the conversation, and so that we can go from there in 2017.
May I comment on that? We actually have our planning meeting tomorrow on that.
I've been asking for that for 5 years.
Commissioner Young, do you have any questions?
No, I have no questions, except I just want to say that each one of us should be recommending outpatient procedures or coming to the ER or whatever to our friends and family instead of going somewhere else.
Commissioner Pollard.
Just a clarification, we right now are being reimbursed by CMS 99% of actual costs in the delivery of health care. Is that correct?
Only for Medicare.
Through Medicare.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, not Medicaid, which is part of CMS.
Nor any
Now-
commercial.
Pardon?
No commercial payers.
No commercial payers, right. Now, as I recall, before all the sequester happened, we were being reimbursed at what, 101, or was it 101?
That was 101%.
Okay, is the sequester scheduled to come off at some point? So it could depend upon the new administration as to where that goes. And 1% may not seem like a lot, but it's the difference between succeeding and failing, isn't it, for many hospitals?
May I comment?
You certainly may.
Thank you. As I was talking about this in the Finance Committee, getting 99% of our Medicare charges, or Medicare costs, sounds like it's a no-win, right? But hospitals that are not on cost-based reimbursement today are getting somewhere around 55 to 60% of costs on Medicare business. And the reason they can make it is because they have other commercial business that makes up for that loss. They have margin on the commercial business line that exceeds the gap between that 60% and 100%. And it's the age-old issue in healthcare in this country, and that is it is essentially a cost shift from the commercial payers and those who are paying premiums in commercial payers to Medicare enrollees and to the federal government. So I'm done with my opinion on that. But the point here is that hospitals that are on the DRG or the prospective payment system and getting 60 cents on the dollar for Medicare costs, they would kill for 99 cents on the dollar. So the point here is that we have much less to make up than other hospitals when it comes to the Medicare business. 99 cents is still good, as long as we've got enough commercial business to offset that 1% gap between 100% and 99%. And again, that's, Commissioner Spiker will talk about it, but that's what we proposed in the Finance Committee to understand where's that sweet spot for us in terms of our cost profile and our volumes.
May I continue? And that is that with respect to the reimbursement schedule, we are very fortunate as a critical access hospital to have essentially full cost reimbursement, because a place like Regency North End gets 80%, according to the DRGs and so forth, but basically it's only covered at 80%, as I understand it. Is that correct?
Can't comment on their.
Okay. But more to what is being discussed here, and that is this this inventory that's being taken by Truvan. And by the way, did that cost us extra to have them add that on? Can they, as part of that program, do some of this research into where patients go and whether they come back to us for subsequent services or not? Could that be part of their mandate?
The study that we had done with Truvan was a pilot study, and it was provided to us frankly, as an inducement for us to contract with Truvan for those services on a full-time basis. It's very interesting data. I don't know if it's going to be worth the cost of that program. So again, it's under our analysis right now to decide whether or not that referral data is worth the price. If we believe it is, we'll bring it to the Finance Committee's recommendation, but it would not be paid for under the benchmarking project. It's a totally different product.
Okay. You mentioned that you were going to do away with as I recall, an intern, that there was an intern position that was going to be eliminated.
We had an intern last summer that was here for about 6 months, and we did not do that this year.
I just wondered if we couldn't get more help from interns from Wanik, Bellevue College, Lake Washington, and so forth, because, as you mentioned, we're short-staffed in some of those lower-level nursing positions and so on. At one time, there was a proposal that we'd have 150 students under the Wanik program come and circulate through the hospital here, and that went away. But Wanik is still, I think, in operation, and I just wonder whether that program could provide us with interns, and would that be helpful? Could we save money by using interns from Bellevue College, nursing interns, for example, and others from Lake Washington and so forth? The other thing that's interesting is just today I heard that Everett's College, against which many federal lawsuits have been filed, has now converted from a for-profit institution to a non-profit. And now they said that their whole culture is changing, and they're going to be turning out a different kind of student and so forth. So we might see graduates from Everest College that we haven't seen before. That was just announced today. At any rate, can we use intern, rather than eliminate an intern position from last summer, could we actually gain something by using more interns and then accepting or realizing that that's an educational function that perhaps we should be providing?
We actually have a very robust program where we have students in here from Bellevue College through the nursing program, so we're currently doing that.
We do have, it'd be nice if the board could be informed about these programs at some point. Maybe we could add that to the agenda sometime. Thank you, Madam President.
They have from time to time.
Yeah, they have.
Ron's come up with the pharmacy intern program and talked to us about it.
Are they
Well, that
compensated?
pharmacy program is different.
Are interns
No, it's
compensated?
not.
No?
No, it's not.
So I can provide a report on our student programs.
Commissioner Herring, did you have any other
That
questions?
was my question, whether they're have a stipend while they're assisting
No.
or working? Okay.
You can ask any of us that have been to
No,
medical
no,
school,
there is
nursing
no
school.
stipend
No.
when you come here. It's volunteer because it's part of your education.
I understand. That's why it's good.
And you're
You never
fully-
know, you know, change.
Okay.
Excuse me, ladies. Commissioners Spikers, would you like to make a motion to?
I do make a motion at this time. I suspect that most of the questions have been answered, so I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the warrants for $2,375,813.40. And anybody have a second?
Second?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Close.
The motion carries. The ayes have it. Okay, medical committee. I don't know which of you two ladies is going to give the report.
Commissioner.
Commissioner Young?
Commissioner,
Commissioner
or one, two. Okay, I'm just going to highlight and gratefully get to skip part of it. Flu shots administered to date in the community, now realizing this was in November, was 150 plus and many more in the clinics. Any community member can continue to walk into any of our clinic sites to receive an influenza vaccine. There's expedited registration in place, and as we discussed at great length, the regional trauma designation, which will be good. With imaging, we're now able to push images to University of Washington Network, Overlake, and Swedish Network, prioritized based on volume of shared patients. Going to get some other hospitals involved also. The Nursing Annual Skills Day is scheduled and done in November. In the clinics, we have 3 new payer contracts. They'll start January 1st. That will make a total of 4, which have performance measures included, minimum utilization, but great learning opportunity for transition into the value-based payment. Any questions?
Hearing none.
Questions? Moment, please. It states here system-wide regarding influenza vaccines. It says to any of our clinic sites. What are our plural clinic sites that you're talking about there?
The Ridge, the hospital, there's one more.
Red Oak,
Red Oak.
Snoqualmie Valley Elder Care, University House,
Oh,
Wall City.
so, all right. Are those called our clinics like University House? Is that, we call that a clinic or a hospital? Okay.
We have a clinic there.
How long is the flu vaccine? Is it through January, or is it over?
No,
It's
it
still
continues on.
continues on.
Okay. It was announced today that there's a serious mumps problem down in Auburn, and that students that do not have MMR immunizations can count on being away from school for 1 month. So I wonder if we might want to think about informing the students in our area that if they choose not to get a vaccination, that is their prerogative. But that could happen. That is that there could be a quarantine for a month where they can't go to school.
Can I address that?
Yeah.
An MMR is a childhood vaccination, and it's parents that usually decide whether the child has it or not.
Right.
So these are probably parents and children of parents that opted out of MMR vaccinations. So telling them that now isn't really going to help. If they get one, it might help for the future, but they'll already be immunized from, tell me if I'm wrong, Dr. Whitcomb, they'll already, once they have the disease, that's the same as getting the vaccine. It's just different in that you have all the symptoms that you don't have with the vaccine.
But if they didn't get it as an infant,
Yes.
they can still get it prior to exposure. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. That is correct.
So I guess that's what I'm saying, and that is that be aware that maybe our students should be aware that if they didn't get it as an infant, they still have an opportunity, but if they choose not, that is, their parents choose not to for them to have the immunization, then they could face what the kids down in Auburn are facing, which is a month away from school.
At what age is a student able to independently decide something like that? I mean, it is an infant-type injection, we get a series, but...
So it's administered a second time in the early teenage years. So by the age of 15, you need to have your second MMR. A student cannot make an independent decision to get it. They can't give permission until they're 18, unless they've been emancipated, so they still have to have parental permission.
So at least the parents, they have the knowledge whether their child had received it or not, so it's not the child. It's the parents that will have that.
Well, the children do
parents.
usually. My kids
They
all had
will
their
know
cards.
that- What's that?
My children all had their cards. There are cards that the kids can
Parents'
carry.
responsibility.
State of Washington has a registration. It's just recently been named, historically it was called Child Profile. Now it's WAIIS. And that's where all vaccinations are recorded. And so for any child that comes into our system, we can go and check and see where they are in their status and get them updated. And yes, there is active notification going on in the school system right now. The school has their own health advisory. So their nurses have already been messaging out.
Thank you,
So
Dr.
we have a
Whitaker.
great relationship with them.
Thank you. That was good information. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Polly.
Thank you. What are we doing, if anything, about Prevnar 13 vaccinations for people 50 and older, and generally pneumococcal vaccines like Prevnar 23, for example, that preceded Prevnar 13? Shouldn't we be making an effort in that area as well as influenza?
Yes, we're giving it out every day, left and right. It is part of the standard immunization program.
But there's no publicity on it. We have publicity on immunization. There's nothing on Prevnar 13.
There's enough publicity happening at a public information level. So every patient that comes into our clinic, when we update them, that's part of the updating process.
What about shingles, for example? That's another
We
one.
administer shingles as well.
I know someone rather well who got shingles as an adult, and it's a very terrible disease.
Madam President, I
Yes,
exhaust
Commissioner.
30 minutes of our...
Okay. All right. Are we ready? Are we ready to go on?
Yes, I would like that. Dr. Whitcup is next.
Okay. Credentialing? Yes.
All right, so there's only 3 on here, so we had a quiet month. So the medical executive committee met on November 16th. We had one initial credentialing, and that is Ms. Linda Taylor. She's a new dietitian with us. So she was recommended for initial provisional credentialing. No issues with her background. We did have one active staff member who was due for re-credentialing. That's Dr. Noel Johnson. He's one of our hospitalists. Again, no issues with his updated review and a recommendation to approve. We had one affiliate staff member who also was due for re-credentialing, and that's Dr. Brian Duvall, a local optometrist. And again, no issues on his review and recommendation to approve. We had one resignation of Dr. Eschbach. She's a radiologist who departed Radia employment.
I move that we accept.
One quickly. Does this take 23 hours to do? Do you know?
This month,
Because it has started at 11:19, and then the next day, 23.
right, we do some months when we don't meet face-to-face, we do an electronic
Okay.
voting. And
That's
so
what I thought.
you open the voting, and that's the opening of the meeting, and it's closed when there's a quorum vote.
Okay.
I move that we accept the physician credentialing as reported by Dr. Whitcup.
Do I hear a second? Commissioner Herron, thank you. All those in favor, do we
Question.
have any more discussion? Yes.
How does an optometrist fit into our program? Now, I go to Virginia Mason Medical Center, the clinic in Issaquah, and they have an integral optometry department as well as ophthalmologists available. And I can see how that fits in. But now we credentialed an optometrist. How does that fit into our program?
optometrists are eligible to come in and do consultations, and that's exactly what they do. They come in and do consultations. They'll sometimes come into the ER and see patients, and they'll sometimes come into the inpatient unit to see a patient. Or we'll send to them, but they do have privileges to come in and do an evaluation.
When would you choose an optometrist as opposed to an ophthalmologist?
Most of the things that we see here are within the purviews of both. The optometry community have greatly advanced their scope of practice in the last 10 years. So they're able to see, and they're even starting to do some surgeries, but we don't privilege them for surgeries. We only privilege them for medical evaluation or trauma care.
Thank you.
Okay, is that the end? We need to vote for the candidates here for recredentialing. Do I hear a motion?
It's all done.
I second it.
I got an interruption. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, it passes. Next, we have a facilities committee.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pollard.
Thank you, Madam President. Commissioner Emma Herron is on the facilities committee, and feel free to interrupt or add at any time. But the minutes were very well prepared by Valerie Huffman, the executive assistant. And there are 15 items, and also an attachment, which I hope you all scanned, which has to do with the use of district facilities. It's a policy statement, and very well constructed by our attorney. Okay. So, with these 4 pages and all those items, it would take a long time to go over them in detail. So I hope that everybody will pick up a copy of the minutes of our meeting. I would ask, however, there are a couple of quite important things. There's a land use appeal going on right now where Puget Western is seeking to subdivide the property next to the East Campus into 5-acre parcels. And we've joined with the city of Snoqualmie to try to, and a few private property owners, to appeal that. Jay, would you like to say something further about that and where that stands since our meeting?
Sure. The issue that we are appealing, and this is to the hearing examiner, King County hearing examiner's level. And Puget Western was obligated to go through a process to show there was adequate water supply if they wanted to subdivide that acreage into 5-acre parcels. So they didn't go through that process. And so we have appealed to the hearing examiner, the city of Snoqualmie, the district, to essentially to require that property owner to go through the necessary due diligence to demonstrate that surrounding property owners would not be disadvantageously impacted by regarding water usage at that site.
Now, if they divide this up to 5-acre lots, does that mean every lot was going to have a well? Or is that what they...
Correct. Well,
yeah.
They would draw from a common water source. And so they need to show that there's enough, there's an adequate...
And we already have a well, correct?
We do.
Okay.
We do. But we all draw from the same case.
Aquifer,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, right now, currently, we're just in negotiations with Puget Western to see if there's a way to amicably settle this prior to having to go the formal appeal route. Due to the holidays, we've kind of put, they've requested what's called a continuance for the appeal hearing into January. We've agreed to that. And so in the interim, we're going to be discussing ways to address our concerns with Puget Western and see what we can settle for that.
Is there 2 aquifers there? That I would have thought that would already be known, whether there's 1 or 2 aquifers within that land.
There's one, but the city of Snoqualmie draws from another one.
Okay. So the issue is these property owners should be drawing from another one or be drawing from the city?
The technical issue is that they didn't go through any process to demonstrate there's enough, there's
Okay.
adequate water supply.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
what is your gut feeling? Is there adequate water for this kind of a subdivision development?
It's only 5 houses.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's enough water.
Enough water
Just
for
the
them.
question is, you know, and also, quite honestly, the concern is that houses go in there, it
That-
could impact the value of our property.
Yes.
And it's sort of, let's say, it's
That's the bottom
prejudicial
line.
to the King County expansion, rezoning, upzoning of that
Right.
area, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Which is something we've looked for years.
Right.
So, very good. Thank you,
Yep.
Jay. That
Yep.
sounds like that's under control. Scott Nohavik is not here tonight. He's our facilities director. And I gotta say, you know, if there's some person that's irreplaceable, it's Scott. He knows every screw and nail in this building.
Mhm.
And he is so competent. He's on our committee. We can't, if he lives quite a distance, we can't impose on him to come to these meetings. But one of the things that he did for us at this last meeting was give us an overview of our security situation. You know, as long as I've been coming to board meetings, 15 years or whatever, I didn't realize that we didn't have our own security personnel, that we had contracted it out. And this has worked out pretty well because we have gotten stability, which you often don't get in contract security operations. And it's worked out well for us. But what we did is Commissioner Herron and I were given a tour of the monitoring operation, which is right next to, well, just sort of part of the ED intake desk. And so they're partners there at the ED, and they have and our security guard has a view over every part of the hospital. There are cameras everywhere. So even though you don't find him at our front desk, he sees you. So I do get some complaints from the public. It says they come to the door, it's locked, they understand that, but they don't see anybody inside. And so they say, where is your security guard? There's an exclamation, and the security guard is over there right at the ED doing his job, and he does a good job. So that was an interesting tour, I think, wasn't it, Karen? Okay, I'm just going to read over some of these topics, and stop me if you want. Snow and ice plan, holiday lighting. You've seen the holiday lights out on the east side above the ED, and those are visible from the parkway. There's nothing here in front, but that's sufficient, and they come on and off at proper at various times. I wonder how late do those stay on, Tom?
I don't know.
Okay, that's good.
It's controlled.
But I presume,
I presume they were off in the morning, I think they're on.
okay, well, if we can save a little money by turning them off at 2 a.m. or something when the bar's closed, maybe.
Perhaps,
I
although.
believe it's in a timer.
They are LED, they're very low voltage.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to get back to the surface water management issue in a minute, but I just, to touch on the topics we covered, blue H sign mapping. You know these H signs you see on the highways and roads. We've done an inventory, and we're trying to fill in spaces where there are no H signs directing people up to this hospital. So mapping has been done, and we're working on that. Asset mapping, that's a very important topic, but there's no update at this time, so I won't continue on that. There are the routine things like we took care of a problem with our kitchen sink and grease line. There's the Abshire punch list. Abshire is a contractor, and there's still a few items that they need to take care of. They're cooperating with us, doing very well. The gift shop, at the time of our meeting, it was said the gift shop is ready for operation. Tom, do you want to bring us up to date?
The construction part is done, but the operational part of it is something that I'm working on with the foundation in terms of them handing it back to the hospital so that we can operate it independent of the foundation. And that will be discussed at the next meeting that we're still trying to schedule with the foundation board.
Okay, well, then, do you have any projected date for the app? Okay, so, but with Board of Hearing hear back about this in January, okay?
May I ask a question, please?
Sure.
We were hoping to see a cost analysis of that when we gave them funds. The board approved funds for the gift shop, and we have seen no inventory, we haven't seen anything that shows where the monies have gone and how they've
Just
been
a
used.
ledger, I would
Yeah.
imagine a simple one-page ledger.
And
would
we've
be-
asked for it a couple times.
I'll be happy to give that to you.
Do you have that?
I don't have it with me, no.
Okay, okay.
But just so you know, I have spoken with the chair, and there would be a return of all funds under the arrangement that I'm proposing where the hospital operates the gift shop. All funds less anything that was purchased for the construction of the gift shop, meaning that we would also take back into possession, hospital possession, all materials that were used for the creation of the gift shop. And on first take, the foundation chair was amenable to that. And
Why is the sudden change? Do you want to follow through?
Operating the gift shop by the foundation was not going to be viable.
I kind of figured that. How
And
you
so-
get a bunch
so
of
we
volunteers?
figured out a way to bring it in-house, and we've actually, Steve and I have talked with a subsidiary or a sister company to the one that works with us in dietary, they're called Branches, that operates and for an amazingly low fee, we could have them operate the gift shop for us. And so we're pursuing that at this time. It'll still be part of hospital operations, not foundation.
Thank you for that information.
Continuing, yes, at the beginning, we hoped that voluntary labor would staff the gift shop, but I think several of us realized that probably wouldn't be sufficient because we don't have a large, strong auxiliary like some other hospitals have. So this concept that Tom is presenting of having the people that run our kitchen take this on at a cost of only $1,250 a year sounds to me like the last of great bargains, if it works, So let's see.
We will see.
Okay, good. Healing garden, this is another item that Tom will be discussing with the foundation when they meet shortly, and that is, remember, there were bricks sold and so forth, and that's in limbo right now, and we're going to discuss with the foundation what might be done with that money in lieu of bricks for a healing garden. Okay, other things, parkway signs, lighting, traffic safety lighting, making the hospital a community gathering place. You probably noticed excellent publicity in the Valley Record front page about the Mount Si High School Cyber Defense Club that met here. We made space available to them. And that's a wonderful thing to see. It has an educational aspect, open community relations aspect, and we got on the front page of the Valley Record, which is great. Okay, now I want to go back to one thing I mentioned, and that is the surface water management. Jay Rodney did some heroic work at this and got some of our penalties refunded, or rather relieved. We were relieved thereof. Jay, would you like to say something about this? And feel free to brag a little. Okay?
Well, I'm speechless, Commissioner.
That doesn't happen.
So in 2012, when we closed on that property, about a year afterwards, we received about a $20,000 bill from King County, which we interpreted as an erroneous assessment of property taxes, because, of course, Leisure Time was a for-profit entity. And so, through a torturous...
Was this the first time they had levied those taxes? Had they not levied them to Leisure Time before?
No, I think this was a new...
That's interesting.
These assessments came in, I think, within the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, long story short, we incurred a $20,000 bill for the last 4 years. And
That's
we had
because
just-
you didn't used to be in the district. You just now, that property is just now in that
Correct.
surface water management district.
Correct. And so it was only until we made the right contacts with King County when we were working with the tribe on the remaining property taxes for the old hospital campus that we finally got in touch with the right office, right department, and we've been in negotiations for the last 6 months. They waived almost $15,000 in interest and penalties. And they also are going to work with us now to bring us down into a lower rate classification. We have to actually remove some of the impervious surface on the East Campus. Right now, we're in the highest rate classification, and even though, and a lot of it is just the gravel driveways throughout the campus. Those are considered, even though it's gravel, it's not asphalt, it's considered impervious surface. And so we had we're working with the county, the Surface Water Management Office to come up with a plan to remove a certain percentage of that impervious surface and return it back to native state so that we go down to a much lower rate classification. So our goal is to be down at around the $8,000 per year assessment, down from $20,000 a year, starting next year.
I hope that they don't get into making us plant native plants and bring in wildlife and to be dropped off. And
You don't need native plants for wildlife, let me tell you.
No, but they do charge us for not just plant removal. See, they'll get you one way or the other.
Yeah. I think all we have to do is throw grass seed down after we turn up the gravel. So.
Okay,
That's it.
Thank you, Jake.
Excellent report. And I will not go into detail on the district facilities use policy. This is something that Mr. Romney has developed, and it protects the district liability, fees, everything very well. If you're interested, it's attached to the back of our minutes, and please feel free to read over those. If you have any questions, you can ask Mr. Romney.
This is good. This is good. Protect us.
Say again? Good. That concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Commissioner Pollard. Is there any other questions for Commissioner Pollard or for Commissioner Herring? Hearing none, we will move on. And it is time for public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Don't we had old business?
first.
Oh, we do have, no, I have public comment and then old business.
What's
Oh,
the
that's
old
the
one?
old one. Okay. Well, old business. Now we have resolution number 2524-1216. And that is,
Amendments to the official bylaws.
It's
yeah,
adopting
it's a discussion on the official, approving the district bylaws that we already have gone through. I don't know, do we have any, are we supposed to have discussion?
If there is any.
Is there any discussion about those bylaws that we already finished and did?
Madam President, I'm just disappointed that the public didn't have more of an opportunity to provide input, to see these revised bylaws, to provide input before we're taking this vote. I'll just make that comment.
We're not voting right now, but there's also no public here, other than the newspaper, I think. New business. And I need to look at my agenda to make sure I'm doing this quite right, because I'm not sure I got this quite right. Okay, so we did committee reports. Old business was the official bylaws. Next, we have new business, and that's resolution number 525-1216, approving the execution and engagement letter with Whipley, which we referred to earlier today. Resolution number 526-1216, approval of the regular meeting dates for 2017. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at those?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any comments, suggestions, changes, anything like that that we need?
Are you talking about all of them together as a bunch, or each one individually?
These are just our regular business, our Thursday, second Thursday of the month.
Let's do Whitley first.
Yeah, well, I got
So
Whitley.
we go all four of them?
Oh, I think we should do it in order.
We should do them in order.
Did you have any comments on Whitley?
Yeah, is there any,
Is it in order?
let's see, okay. So the first new business is approving the executive engagement letter for Whitley. That's the first one.
Mhm.
Is there any comments on that resolution and that agreement?
Madam President?
Yes, sir.
My comment is that I don't think we should spend this money. I'm sorry. When I look at what they would do, it would be to arrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. What they are proposing to do, our staff, I have high regard for our financial staff, and I think they could do this and save us $8,000 or so. The other concern is that we're offering a blank check in terms of lodging, meals, and all sorts of expenses over maybe a 30-day period. That needs to be clarified before we sign this.
Do you want an explanation from our CEO about that, or
I welcome any
just a comment?
explanation from anybody.
I don't disagree about the out-of-pocket. We ought to revise it to make sure that there's a cap on out-of-pocket. But that said, the analysis that they will do for us, I believe is very important for us to understand what the expense profile of the hospital needs to be going forward. And if it's different than what we brought it to today, then we need to understand that and continue aggressively getting the costs out in order to get ourselves right-sized. The product I believe in, but like I said, I would agree with Commissioner Pollard about capping the profit.
And it's been in the budget as well, right?
Steve?
Yeah, we have nothing to touch on.
What's that?
It is, I think there's a maximum.
Oh, it is a maximum, thank you. Steve Cannon just let me know that the figure in there is a maximum.
Okay, well, I think that we should see that before we sign the document. It's not in the contract proposal.
Oh, I believe it is, the one I have.
The one I have is, in addition to direct out-of-pocket expenses for travel, lodging, meals, and report production will be billed separately and at cost. What if they, and by the way, how long will they be on site? I think it's in 30 days, these projects will take. And how long will they actually be on site where we'll be subject to those per diem costs?
Shouldn't be any on site with it all.
Well, my point is that we can't have a blank check where they can go stay at the Salish and rent cars and
Commissioner
incur all
Pollard,
sorts of
have you seen page 4? Have you read page 4? Based on our current knowledge of the scope of the project, the fee and services requirements as outlined in the engagement letter will not exceed a maximum of $8,500.
But it says in addition.
Yes,
So-
no, that's $8,500 for the project, but then there are these other expenses, and that's what I'm addressing, and I think Mr. Spikers is head of finance, where we're $100 million in debt or something. We have to watch these costs.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any reason for them to incur travel expenses. This is something that can be done not on-site, and that paragraph should be stricken if they want to go forward with that. The other thing, I wanted to make a comment about why, because this is an expense that is, and I wanted to follow up with a question from Steve. Steve, you with me?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, the question I had, will they answer the question that I had? How much average, how much outpatient procedures do we get from our inpatient stays? And that's the question that begs, this is how many do we have to, would that question be answered in this?
that's not in the scope of what we are having them do. We can add that.
I mean, that's, to me, that's how you figure out where we need to be, right? I mean, how many outpatient procedures will it take to pay for the 1 million loss in clinics per year, to pay for the 1%
That they will.
That question they will. The first question I'm
The
interested
source,
in is different.
the source part of your question
Yes.
regarding how many need to come from patients who are inpatient, discharged, and come back. There are multiple sources of outpatients, and I think the real question that we have that we want to answer is what does the total outpatient profile need to be for us to be financially strong? Actually, the number of patients, and this is true in most hospitals, the number of outpatient procedures done for patients who were inpatient is a much lower number than the total of outpatient procedures that are coming to the hospital by reason of referrals from their own clinics and other area providers. That's the real big source of outpatient procedures for us, is area providers in our own clinic.
Well, that's not what we discussed in finance meeting. I thought that when I said, and I've always said, well, 99%, we can't make any, why are we doing this at 99%? We have Medicaid, we have Medicare, we can't make money, we have no pays. And then I thought that the answer was because our swing bed patients come back to us to do outpatient procedures, and that's how we make up for those losses.
It's all of our outpatient procedures. Our outpatient procedures do not come only from our swing bed patients.
Right.
They come from referrals from our clinics, referrals from other providers. So, yes, the way we make money is on, correct, the outpatient procedures. And what we're going to get is a number of, what is the level we need at certain expense base to make money of outpatient procedures and inpatients. I hope that answers your question.
And if my explanation wasn't clear, I apologize for that. We do get some outpatient procedures for patients who have been in the swing bed program, but that's a relatively small part of our outpatient profile. It's really people who are interacting with the hospital from the start as an outpatient and continue to receive outpatient services.
Commissioner Pollard?
Even so, and I appreciate what the superintendent has just said, I think Mr. Spiker's request is reasonable. And I'd like to know when people are discharged from the hospital from the swing bed program, do we sort of automatically schedule them for some kind of follow-up? Because probably most of them need some kind of follow-up, whether it's PT or rehab somewhere on an outpatient basis. And do we make a habit of trying to schedule them for outpatient
Especially
care?
rehab, yes.
How is that successful?
Yes.
And I think it's reasonable that what Mr. Spikers is asking for to see how extensive those referrals are.
Now, that specific point, we can produce that in-house because their name, their medical record will be able to help us understand that. I think the broader question is also important with respect to what is the total outpatient profile need to be for us to be financially strong.
Well, not only what does it need to be, but what is it? I mean, we can speculate on what it needs to be in the mix between Medicaid, Medicare, private pay, and so forth. But we'd also like to know, what is it at this point? Is that going to be part of the report?
I'm not sure I understand the question when you say what is it.
Well, you're saying that this study will tell us what our mix should be. And what I'm asking is, will it tell us what our mix currently is?
What we're asking them to do is do what's called sensitivity analysis. And that is where they provide a number of different scenarios of inpatient and outpatient volume, and then they help us to understand what the cost or our total expenses need to be in order for us to be financially viable under those different volume scenarios. That's the kind of work that I think we need to have, and that's the scope of the project.
And that is not something that can be done in-house, Steve?
No,
Is that
there's
correct?
not.
The complexity of cost-based reimbursement does make this a challenging project, and that's the reason we've chosen a firm like Whitley, who actually does cost reports. Because what they'll do is they'll be able to understand what the revenue impact is on different expense profiles. Every time we change our expense profile, it changes how much we get reimbursed under the cost-based reimbursement system. So it's firms like Whitley, who live and breathe cost-based reporting, who can help us with this analysis.
Here's a follow-up observation, if you will, and I just pose this out. If we don't have, other than rehab, for our swing bed Medicaid, Medicare patients, which, by the way, is 65% of our intake, or I believe 65%, somewhere in our swing beds, somewhere around 65%. And if those patients, only half come from the area, the other half are from some other area that we get referrals from, they're more likely to go to the closest source for rehabilitation. And so I guess that's kind of where where I see this is we do one thing and then half of our patients go away to never return. And we collect up front, but we don't have anything on the back end, so to speak, to be able to collect and get reimbursed from. Because even Medicaid, if I'm right, if they come back for outpatient procedures, even on Medicaid, we make a pretty good dollar.
Medicaid pays pretty well.
So that's, this is such a difficult, complex, area, because it's taken me many years to just ask these questions. And it's not easy. It's not easy for a board member that are, that we're here just trying to do our best to understand. And so I'm asking these questions because I think we're getting right at the root of what we need to do. And I really think, Gene, Mr. Pollard, you have legitimate concerns, as I do. And but we need to have some tools. And we need to, it's $8,500, and if we can save, we don't know what the savings is, but if we can keep on track every month, when we have a volume of 30 million a year, if we can keep on track and to be at that good spot in the interim here, we could save potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so, in a predicament that we are at here, I guess, we are in the bottom of the ninth, and we do need, perhaps, our staff are asking to have another tool that they can use to help them. And I think that, based on what all of these complex questions are that I can't answer, and even they can't answer, and they're asking for our help at this point, I think as a board we need to agree to this tool. And I'm calling it a tool because it's going to help them. If it helps them, and it's not that expensive, I mean, it's $8,500. It's an expense, but can it save hundreds of thousands of dollars? Maybe. I'm not saying it will, but I sure would like to have a savings of a couple $100,000 if we can be more efficient.
I'll just comment, I appreciate having these tools. The benchmarking tools were essential for us, and we're generating savings far in excess of the cost of those tools. This is not this is not a wish kind of thing. This is not an item that is somebody's frivolous wish list. We're trying to control costs, and this is one of our cost control tools. tools, and I appreciate that.
It's kind of like you send a soldier into combat, and he's got a different size caliber bullet for his gun, or he's got no gun, and what do you expect him to do? And that's a pretty dramatic analogy, but I don't know. I just think they're asking for our help to approve this, not to pay someone on a frivolous contract, I don't think. And I've seen frivolous contracts, believe me. So I think this is something that the board should approve.
May I comment? I'd like to
Yes,
add
you
for
can.
Commissioner Spikers, but up to that $8,500 maximum only. I don't want to see the second paragraph on page 4. I'd like to see that deleted. In addition, because there's a lot of certainties in this particular paragraph for me. So I would like to again, see that we do approve the $8,500 tool for that matter.
Is there any other questions?
There's a lot of uncertainty.
That paragraph that Commissioner Herring referred to is not part of the resolution. How would one approve the resolution in contract with the proviso that that paragraph is removed? I think I heard the superintendent say it's going to be removed.
Correct.
So,
And what I'm saying, in saying that, is that I will go, and Steve and I will speak with the folks here at Whitley about what the board has approved and see if they'll continue to do the engagement at that amount.
okay, in that regard, Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Pollard.
Mr. Superintendent said that that study that Mr. Spikers is looking for about sort of the post-discharge utilization of outpatient services could be done in-house. How difficult would it be to add to this contract that aspect, and that is analyzing, and number 2 is how can we increase our general outpatient business? But can we add those 2 items to this contract? To me, it's a natural.
It's not, I'm sorry to say. And I'll tell you, because Whitley's scope is not marketing, it's not growth, it's understanding finances and doing analysis. Their database does not include specific patients here. We have that in our electronic medical record. We could do our own study and find out how many of our discharged inpatients end up in the outpatient world. So we can do that ourselves without including that in the study. And again, Whitley would not be able to provide us. That's not within their skill set.
Okay,
to
I'll
talk about.
take that. So you said we can do that. Will we do that? And then answer thereby Mr. Spiker's question.
Yes, I'm confident that our informatics group can provide us that information.
Mr.
I'm going to look
Spikers,
over at our CIO here. Yeah, okay.
Mr. Spikers is very persuasive. If I were a judge, I'd say not guilty. But
Oh, I say guilty.
But
Okay.
the point I'd like to make is I'm going to vote against this because it's still an $8,500 cost. And I don't think we can afford these consultants right and left. And we've had a habit of doing so. So as justified as it might be, I plan to vote no on this. And I hope you'll tell Whitley that the board is watching and closely to make sure that this is an appropriate return on investment. And one really bad, nasty board member is really hot on their trail to make sure that occurs.
I'll be right.
I'm not sure which one that is.
Who would that be?
Okay.
Okay.
We have consumed or exhausted all our time here, and it's now
Very
8:23. No, I'm sorry, we can continue, but we have other stuff.
We do, Commissioner Herring. So
I
do,
don't mean to rush, but I think we have exhausted.
so do we have a motion to approve?
No,
Right,
that's not
no.
yet, we gotta go to the next one.
Yeah, okay, we're,
Second, still
more discussion.
regular meetings.
All right, now we're moving on to the dates.
I move that,
You
I make a
don't
motion.
move.
No, we don't. Sorry.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on that?
Yeah, is there any discussion on Resolution 526-1216? And this is approval of regular meeting dates for 2017.
I think it's a great idea.
And I think we already agreed on this before.
Yeah.
Okay, then we will move on. We'll move on to Resolution 527-1216. That's approval of the legal holidays for 2017.
Question.
Yes, Commissioner Pollard?
How do the number of our legal holidays and what they are compare with other similar situated hospitals? Or to Evergreen, Overlay, Kittitas, could you comment?
We're right in the same spot as most other hospitals.
Well, some of them have 10 holidays. This is only 7.
I agree, yes.
I know that.
And I'm going to be
Federal holidays.
The one, I'll just comment that the one holiday that we have that many other places don't have is Veterans Day. But conversely, the holiday that many other places have that we don't have is the day after Thanksgiving.
And I'm going to say something really, this is really bizarre coming from me, but I'm going to say it. Christmas Day, we're observing Christmas Day as a holiday.
This is on a Sunday.
Yeah, but this year. But Christmas Day is a specific religious holiday for a specific group, which means what about other specific holidays for other denominations? So if you have somebody that's Yom Kippur, or if you have the Muslim holiday, some of those other holidays for other groups is as important as Christmas is for Christians. So I don't know how we can tweak this if we have staff that Christmas is not a meaningful religious holiday, and it is a religious holiday. Then do they have another religious holiday that is in lines with their own faith that they would want to take instead? And
I can tell you what I've seen other systems do there, and that is they designate what's called a floating holiday. And that is for people who they don't take away Christmas Day, but they add what's called a floating holiday. And so you find a day, if there's a day of the year that means a lot to you, you designate that as an individual as a holiday, and you take it as holiday pay. It doesn't come out of your PTO bank.
okay, but then that would mean they get Christmas besides, and then they have an additional one.
That's what I've seen, yes.
We added about 4 years ago Veterans Day. We added one extra holiday to our budget because I think there was overwhelming response from our
Commissioner Pollard?
veteran
Bill
alarms.
Pollard and
A couple.
Dick Jones, both of us veterans, legally veterans on board, and yes, he'd been wanting to push that through for years, and so I helped him, supported it, and we got it through. There was favoritism in the community about doing that, so I think that's
So,
good, but
I'm just saying that, and I said, well, why don't we do a floating holiday? They could take Veterans Day, or they could take, a different. So that was my proposal. I don't care which way, but addressing Daryl's concerns, that was probably the only thing that I don't really feel like adding another swing day.
I wouldn't say add another. I would say Christmas, or I don't know how you handle it, but if folks have a different holiday, faith holiday, and they want to switch that out for Christmas, I don't know how we would do that, or if we make Christmas a floating instead of having it. I know that's kind of odd, but it just, to me, we become religious specific when we do that. And I'm a Christian, but I'm
I think
still.
would it be because there's 10 federal holidays.
Right.
And if we were to continue, I can also say, I can express, hey, why don't we have my Philippine Independence Day?
Yeah.
Everybody would want to do their own. So I think there's strictly, where we have to observe and commemorate certain, like the veterans is for one
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, these have been recognized holidays in both federal and
Yeah,
state
federal and
statute,
state,
and
yeah.
it hasn't been an issue. Well,
Okay, well, I just have a concern for that.
Well-
Can we have somebody says, I would rather take a different holiday than that day for a religious event?
We don't have that as policy at this point.
Okay.
We can take that under advisement, do research, yes.
Is not
Sorry,
one-
I'm
is
not
not-
the chair.
Is not one of the points also the large number of persons who observe Christmas Day? In other words,
Yes,
it's
yes,
not
yes.
merely that it's a personal Christian holiday, but it's also that socially, that's a day when many, many, many people are not going to want to be in the hospital, want to be working. I think that's why the library.
Secular holiday.
Secular,
Yeah, that's true.
I have a question.
I recognize that.
I have a question. Many, many, many of us work on the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
You may get extra pay for it.
Yep.
And what's to say that you can't request a day off, take it as a vacation day or something, and make it work for you? Because in everybody's life, things come up that you want to celebrate or be a part of, and you've got to make it happen how you can.
Okay. Well, that's my 2 cents worth. Are we ready to vote? Is there any other
We're not
discussion?
voting.
Oh, we're not voting, we're just discussing. Is there any other discussion? Yeah.
oh, that's what it is.
So and number 5 is approval of this work study schedule, which is, next one, I just saw it.
I think we're at public comment, right?
Not yet. Do we look at, the work
Oh, the
study
work study?
schedule?
I just put it in here, so. Are these, are these the topics that we submitted earlier for discussion? Okay,
These are all the high priority ones.
okay.
I got as many as I could into the schedule and tried to space them, so that.
I would like to see the budget ones a little quicker, that's all.
A lot, much
Um,
sooner than September.
Rather than, maybe having a big significant, pointing that's not until April. I'm talking, I'd like to see something no later than February, if not January. Something like that.
So we can move March.
I would like to have the whole board informed and looking at.
So are you saying you'd like to switch maybe, listening to both of you, April to March and March to April?
Yeah.
The
No,
budget
I'd like
to
to
April?
switch April's to January or February.
On government?
Point
And-
of inquiry, Madam
Yes.
President.
Commissioner Pollard?
My impression is that the work study function is best when there's flexibility in what you're going to be considering, because so many things are going to come up that are not on this list. And they're best discussed in a work-study environment as opposed to a formal environment. I want to just know clarification, how rigid is this list? Are these suggestions?
It's as rigid as the board wants to make it, but I thought it would be helpful to start
Yeah.
with this, and then
I
if you
agree.
can
There's
change
some
along
sort of
the
a-
way, gosh.
This is a
change
good
along the way.
roadmap, and
I just ask that you provide
Yes.
staff
It's a
with
roadmap
enough
for us.
advance notice of a change, because there's big work involved in getting these ready.
Yeah,
In response, you've made, you visited the work study session at Evergreen, and my impression is that one of the things that they discussed at their work study sessions is what's coming up at the next board meeting, and how can we discuss some of these things informally so that we don't spend all our time at the board meeting asking questions and discussing it. How would that fit into this?
And on a case-by-case basis, we throw it in there.
I think based on an update that I had with the concerning the finances, and based on what the board had indicated about what a balancing of the budget as being a high priority, I do think that the budget should be up there I know you're going to Evergreen and you want to talk about governance probably after that kind of segue. That's my guess. You're going to Evergreen to scout them out in the board meeting on the 22nd and then kind of seg that into the governance.
And I'll comment on the governance in that we had a really interesting presentation during the WISHA conference, and I'd love to get them up here, but they're folks out of California. I have asked Skip Hauser if he would be willing to do a more expanded version of what he did with us last year, because he does that a very good job of helping organizations understand the role of governance, the role of management. I haven't heard back from him yet, but that would be part of what we would do under governance. But to your point, Commissioner Spikers, if we wanted to flip-flop foundation with budget and get budget into the February meeting, we certainly can do that.
Yeah, I definitely really would like to see that it go up, and I think that's, what I want is obviously is just me, but I think the board did indicate that we want to be really looking at a balanced budget, and I'd like to get that on the February.
Are there other commissioners that are supportive of that? I am.
Yes.
Fine.
Clarify what we would be supportive of.
Flip-flop,
Oh,
look at February.
I would like to speak to that more generally, which is there are only 2 items for each work session. If you look at how Evergreen does it, there may be 4 or 5. And frankly, since we're almost in a survival mode financially, I'd like to see finance on every one of these to some extent.
I guess I don't want to be there all night trying to cover every topic at one meeting. I would like.
Nobody wants to be there all night.
I think
we're in a
2
survival
items.
mode.
2 items are a good idea, and I'm supportive of Commissioner Spiker's suggestion that we bring it up and move the foundation out on February if others are.
Just flip-flopping foundation with budget from April to
Yeah.
February and February to April.
Mhm.
Is that a problem?
Yeah.
Or
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm for it. It is fine.
We didn't vote, but it sounds like, do we need to vote, or are we congenial about
I
this?
think they were asking for input.
Well, yeah, I did, yeah, but I'm just thinking before we vote on it.
Yeah.
Madam President.
Yes, Commissioner Pollard.
This just says in our agenda here, action item, approval of work study schedule. It's flexible. Tom has told us that. Let's try it. Let's be as flexible as we need to be, because this is not an ordinance that requires publication and all of those. This is something we can change by motion.
Yeah, which is fine, but we lose focus on what we are actually working on, and we get into these different scenarios. We can always probably discuss it, but let's focus on what it is going to be the main theme here. So we are not always,
So try it. Maybe
spinning
you'll
our
like it.
wheels.
I'll
Sorry,
have to
Steve.
comment. I like to lay things out in advance and know where we're going,
Yeah.
but I totally agree that we will change this if we need to. But you guys,
This is a roadmap.
and we all together identified the topics that were important, and I felt we're not going to get them all addressed if we don't lay it out and make sure that there's space and time to get them addressed, and that's why you see a schedule.
Thank you.
Okay, there's any more discussion on that? Then we will move on. Public comment. Do we have any public comment? We do.
We do. Well, hi, Scott Scowcroft, I live in North Seattle. I wasn't going to have a public comment tonight, but in light of Commissioner Spiker's comments that you're in the 9th inning, and I've been encouraging this board to be visionary and courageous and entrepreneurial for I don't know how long. I just feel that you're missing something here, and that is that there's something the district does better than anyone else, and it deals with geriatrics. You had the geriatric psych ward when Overlake was here, and then that morphed into critical access and the swing bed program. And The reputation that the district has for rehab is, unmatched throughout the entire state. So find out what you can do in terms of capitalizing on your geriatrics expertise and reputation that you have right now. Be visionary about it, courageous and entrepreneurial, and let that be a cash cow. But I'm afraid that you're not going to be able to do that, because I come to these meetings and I see that Commissioner Pollard every time sucks the oxygen out of the air. There's trivialities, there is many grandstanding, thinking small. He dominates the conversation to the point where you haven't been able to do anything for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. You've been spinning your wheels, and I don't see any change in that unless Commissioner Pollard voluntarily resigns so that you can appoint new blood, someone that can energize you, someone who can energize the district, and that you can maybe get going and do something. I don't see the status quo meaning that you can, somehow do more of what you're doing right now and get to the results that you want to get to. And I think that the biggest obstacle I see is the one that I've just mentioned. So that's something I sincerely, and then I think that there should be, I think Commissioner Pollard should be honored for the services that he has had right now so far, but to leave with a legacy that is good rather than a legacy of helping to drag this wonderful district to a slow death, which may or may not happen, but I just don't see how it can avoid happening under the status quo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Hearing none, we will move on to action items. So now we're going to take some votes. Do I hear a motion for resolution number 5241216, which is approving the official district bylaws revised December 2016?
I so move.
I second.
Any discussion?
We already had it.
We've already had it.
I know.
Ad nauseam. I'm sorry.
I call the question.
Commissioner Pollard?
I'm not asking a question, I'm calling the question.
Okay. Is there any objection? All right, then we will vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
Opposed?
Okay, the ayes have it. We have one opposition. We have now resolution number 5251216, approving the extension of the engagement letter with Whipley. Did we make any changes to that letter? Were we going to make changes to that letter based on our discussion? That would be my question first.
Yeah, I have a question as well. Has this engagement letter been signed?
No.
Not until we approve it.
Here's what we approve with the proviso that paragraph 2 on page 4 be stricken,
Yeah.
and that when the staff obtains that agreement with Whipley, that they go ahead and sign the agreement, and we give them authority to sign the agreement striking paragraph 4.
So I hear an amendment. Isn't that an amendment to it? Parliamentarian.
I don't think it's an amendment.
Excuse me.
So the resolution does refer to Exhibit A, and so one could add a proviso, provided that paragraph 2 on page 4 be stricken.
Be stricken.
And that's all that's needed.
On the resolution, is that okay?
I so move as an amendment.
No.
Proviso, it's proviso.
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 So it's an amendment. It's an amendment, and it says, provided that
Yeah,
page 4, paragraph 2 be stricken.
so it's proper for me to move that as an amendment.
Yes.
I so move.
All right,
Okay.
So that's
then I second.
All right.
So then you want to ask, is there any objection to this?
Yes. Is there any objection to the amendment? Okay, then we will now approve it with the amendment. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those that oppose say no.
Opposed?
Okay, Commissioner Pollard opposes. All right, the next item for resolution 526-1216, approval of the regular meeting dates for 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Resolution 527-1216, approval of the legal holidays for 2017. Do I hear a motion?
Did you,
Is there a second?
I second.
All those, any more discussion?
I would just like to add that the staff, we invite the staff to look at this and see if in lieu of the 3% increase that was requested and so forth, and in wanting to do things for our,
No.
and wanting, let me finish my statement, please, and in wanting to do what we can for our staff, that we look for an opportunity to add a day of holiday to our staff. So that's my only discussion about the validity of this particular resolution.
The chair has the floor.
It can either be an amendment, or we can determine, or really, it's not germane. We had discussion, we did not use that, that didn't happen at the time of discussion before.
Can that be a friendly request or something of that sort, Madam Parliamentarian?
It would be perfectly fine to request that the staff look into it, or consider it, or think about it.
That's all.
Okay.
In other words, I want to approve this, but I also want us to look for an opportunity for another holiday. Perhaps not go as far as the state or the feds go, but do what we can for our employees, and perhaps they'd appreciate that as much or more than,
Thank you,
Sorry.
Commissioner Pollard.
That's a comment.
Thank you. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it passes. Aye. I was aye. Approval for the work-study schedule. I believe we've amended that as written with an amendment to push the finance up 2 months. Is that correct?
Budget comes in
Did I do it?
February, foundation goes to April.
Okay. All those in favor say...
You don't have a motion
I
here.
don't have a motion.
I
Okay, do we have, thank you. We have a move. Do we have a second?
Yeah, as you've already moved and seconded, is there opportunity for discussion at this point, Madam Parliamentarian?
Sure, but you haven't got a second yet.
I haven't got a second.
Oh, you don't have a second? Okay.
Second.
Who moved it? Okay, moved in second. All right, yes.
Okay, I would, with respect to this, with the proviso, with the understanding that this work-study schedule is subject to flexibility and change in the future, I would support this.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Then we will take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, next scheduled meeting, all meetings, wait a minute. Other, there is a little other here. Any other business that needs to be taken care of before we leave tonight?
Christmas party.
That's tomorrow night.
Yeah,
Is it snowing?
maybe Tom, while I'm gathering something here, might want to say something further about Christmas party. But here's something I want to pass out with the permission of the chair. There is a new health program in the Valley called CarePoint. It's a free clinic that's being offered down at the Snoqualmie, it's at the Family Life Center of the Snoqualmie Valley Alliance Church, although it is not a direct sponsorship by them. And we do have a connection with this, I think, in our laboratory services. But perhaps the superintendent could you pass this out, please? The superintendent could give us a report on how we can cooperate with this free clinic, even though it's a very modest and small thing. It only meets 1 day a week and so forth, and they're going to have a lot of challenges. They've been wanting to do this since 2010. So I'd like to see them be successful.
We're trying to get more.
So anyway, That's just an item under other, and I would appreciate it if it could be written up as an item under other rather than just give my name. Okay? Thank you.
Community choice whether to go to.
Yes.
Yeah, this is great information.
Commissioner Herring, I'm sorry, but Tom Parker has the floor for the moment.
Request that we ask Dr. Wickup to comment on this and some of the work that's been done with them.
Okay.
So we've been working with Snoqualmie Valley Alliance Church since 2010 to help them launch this. They have had starts and stops and been finally able to launch it. The gal who's heading it up, she and I are in conversation somewhat often. We provided them all of their equipment, so all of their chairs, all of their exam tables were as part of our surplus several years ago. And so they've held on to it. It's still in great condition. I've gone over and toured the facility, I've been a consultant for them to give them advice on how to manage their HIPAA, how to manage their documentation, how to set their rooms up, and such. And I've also encouraged our providers to participate in any way. We haven't had anyone yet who's been able to do it. They do have a nurse practitioner who's working with them, and she'll be with them every Wednesday. We're in the process right now putting together a referrals list for her because she's from outside the valley and coming in to do this. And so we're putting together a list that she can use to understand what services are available in the valley. We've connected her with Chris Anton, who is in our clinic's billing office, because Chris is her point of contact for getting them signed up for the Affordable Access Program, for introducing them to our clinic's sliding scale program, and also can get them enrolled in any of the health benefit exchanges that they might be eligible for. And then we additionally offer them some laboratory and x-ray services, and we have a special order form that they use. So anytime that they see a patient who needs one of the things that we really feel like we can provide at no charge, they bring this billing slip in, and it'll expedite the process all the way through, so there's not a billing error, so they can get some of these laboratory tests or some x-ray tests that are without charge. And that's at the moment, our contribution.
Is there any contribution from maybe social work on helping them come up with a good insurance program or some programs?
That's what Chris Anton is doing.
Okay, okay. That is good to know. I'm impressed.
Question, please. Point.
Yes, Commissioner Paul.
Would it be not only a courtesy, but something perhaps we should do to invite this lady who's been working on this for years to come and meet the board and make a statement about their program at our podium? Would that be appropriate?
That wouldn't be my decision.
I agree, but would you recommend that we, and Tom, would you think that might be a good idea?
I think it would be great to hear. It'd be actually a really feel-good kind of experience for us if she'd be willing to do it.
Yeah, I think that relationship that you have established is excellent, but we're not marketing department for them. We need our own help here on our primary care, especially that we are in the midst of crisis regarding outpatient. And so I think that it is great that that relationship has been established and that, this is free to the, and how are they funded? Is this government funded? Because it's primary free care to the community. I'm just curious. But we're not marketing,
No,
So we need to work on our own outpatient as well. Our primary care need to be more strong. We need to strengthen that.
That's why we've offered this one.
Thank you.
This
That's
could
just a comment.
This could lead to referrals to the hospital, however, could it?
Sure, most of these people, they're getting their care there because they can't afford anything.
Right.
Yeah, it's charity care.
But at least they know then about our ED and
Well, this is the reason why we are, why I donated what we had, which was time and surplus equipment and expertise, was because otherwise the only resource many of these folks have is to come to an emergency room, which is not an appropriate way to utilize healthcare dollars. So to help them find a solution, because they really do need outpatient primary care for basic medical problems.
thank you.
Is there any other items that we need to cover before we adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Okay, our next
One
schedule.
last thing. The 22nd, we have a work study. right next to Christmas.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
I'm not available on that
It's
day,
your
so,
phone, it's your phone.
so,
Thank you for bringing that up.
can we skip December's?
You're not gonna break anybody's heart.
Would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion to skip the work study in December. It's just too many family things going on. My kids are out of school and
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous.
Christmas came early.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
All righty.
Still early.
So we want to make sure everybody knows that work session is done and we are
what's that?
dismissed.
And remember the party tomorrow night.
Yes, the party
Starting
tomorrow
at
night.
6,
Party
right?
tomorrow will be
It'll be the Sunday.
hockey.
My husband's gonna be able to come.
Huh?
My husband has.
I wish you all a happy holiday, because I may not see you. I'm not going to be at the party. Carmen has a hockey tournament.
Oh, the party.
I'm assistant coach, so we're headed out. We're headed out. We're headed out.